Stay curious, keep exploring, keep growing. Your mic is your network. One guest can connect you to many. Are you ready for real relationships, real opportunity, real growth? Build your network and amplify your impact. One conversation, countless connections. Are you curious about creativity, science, health, business, technology, mindset, relationships? Whatever you're curious about, you can explore via podcasting. Welcome to Get Curious. I'm your host, J.L. Palmer. Join me as I explore my curiosity about our guest. I was curious about a memoir, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl, and a podcast called Jess Saying. Today our guest is Jessica Danel. She shares raw, hilarious, and heartfelt stories about motherhood, marriage, and starting over, reminding us that life's messiest moments often make the best stories. Jessica Danel, very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining me.
I'm happy to be here.
How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here. You've been in podcasting now for, well, July will be a year.
Yeah, I
Wow.
know, huh? It's crazy. I still feel like I just started. And if you think about it, in podcast world, I think I'm on episode right now, airing 47 or something, episode 47 today, but I've actually taped over 103 episodes. I just haven't uploaded them. They upload once a week, so I'm kind of far in advance with how many episodes I've actually done. It's weird because I'm so much better now than I was at episode 47, but I would say 47 and on, I'm pretty good. I'm a lot better at it than I was when I first started. It's I'm very green in the very beginning, but you know what? They say you have to cringe before they'll binge, so whatever.
I love that actually. So I'm taking a look at the way we met through this PodMatch matching service. How long have you known about them?
I've used well since the get-go. Well, I started using another one just similar. It's called matchmaker.fm.
Hmm.
And I was getting, some people to come on through there, but the it's weird because I want to say the quality of the people that are your guests not necessarily are better, but their PodMatch keeps you accountable and keeps you on your toes and won't really let you forget that you have a an episode coming up. Like if you're going to be on somebody's podcast, it'll tell you like don't forget. With the other one, it won't, and I get a lot of no shows, and it was really hard. So, somebody said, I'm not using this anymore. Find me on PodMatch, and I'm like PodMatch. So then I'm like immediately I signed up. I'm like, well, hello. And so now I just use it. I use both, but I really don't get a lot of clients from the other. And I'm almost ready to stop using it altogether. So,
Yeah. I remember back, it was probably 2021, then when I was first introduced to it. And if anybody actually came to me and asked to be a guest on my podcast, I would send them automatically to PodMatch to create a profile and then say, then revisit me after.
right.
And I had found that my show just exploded. I had a 1 year wait list quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you would say I don't have a necessarily a wait list per se because I've recorded the episodes. So I don't make them wait. I tell them though, hey, listen, right now your episode's going to air in June of 2027, and they know that it won't. But the way I tell them, and it's true because I actually work for a TV station as well. I'm into I have two day jobs besides podcasting and writing books and everything. So, but so what I know is that this time next year, I'll have more impressions watching my or listening and watching my episodes than I will currently in this moment. So when they're episode 103 or whatever it is, more people will be watching, and and it's going to help them. And also what I do for my clients is I give I don't like to say clients because it's not really clients, but my guests, I give them social posts. I give them 7 for the week. So the week that they're airing, they get one per day that they can post on anything, anywhere they want. And I also will post one per day on all of my social media, or not all my social media, but the ones that it's a lot of work. So I just post to like TikTok, which is my TikTok is growing. It's like 16,000 people, and I just signed up. Well, now it's almost like a year I signed up. So it's been a year, but it's slowly growing. And then I do LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and X. Those are all I just don't have time. I want to maybe explore all my other ones that I've signed up for, but it's just a lot of work. And I'm the only one doing it. I don't have producers or help, or, I don't have anyone to help me do it. So I'm producing everything and doing all my own social media and advertising and all that. So
Yeah.
those are
And,
the ones I
and a
choose.
couple full-time jobs. So
Yeah.
repurposing alone is a full-time job. So it really depends on how you go about it. And I don't know about you, but I guessed it's just even April 22nd for a podcast. And I found that by the time they actually release it, which is going to be like a month or a month and a half, so much has changed. Like I'm not even the same person they interviewed a month ago.
Yeah. And if they want to come, well, that's so true. And I always tell people, well, when you're on your second book or you're on the next one, or I'll ask them, do you have something in the hopper? I call it the hopper, whatever you want to say, like on deck, or, a book that you're working on that might come out in a year. I go, tell me about it now. And then, and then we'll revisit, come back on my show and we'll talk about it, the new
Mhm.
book, if you want. I don't mind having a guest that's revisited, because it's like having an old, I really connect with everybody that is on my show. And it's kind of like having a friend back. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah.
And so, I don't mind that at all, but it's different because right now I'm in this part of my podcast where I'm like taking whatever comes my way, and I'm not really too choosy, but I am when it if it see, my podcast is geared towards families, relationships, and like kids, kids with special needs, because I have children with special needs. And not only, I'm not limited to that though, but children, because I used to run a preschool. So I'm like, I love all age groups. I love children. But so it's geared towards family and that. And if the people that want to come on my show doesn't really align with the family unit, or like trying to help moms or dads, or trying to help in that kind of realm, even books. I loved getting authors that are moms or dads, or millennial dad writing a book and that type of stuff. So that's how I frame it, because I want other dads out there to know, like, hey, dude, you can write a book too, and be a girl dad. I had a millennial dad on who's a girl dad and wrote a book, and it was like a mystery novel or something cool. And so we just talked about being a girl dad, and how juggling jobs and juggling being an author, and we talked about the book and all of those types of things. So I get to know the person, and not just why they're wanting to come on my show to like advertise their in what they're doing at the time. But I try to dissect the stories in their life and what brought them to that point of wanting to write a book. And so that's what fun is. It's just getting to know people. You become kind of friends with them in a way, and you feel like I can look through the names of all my episodes on paper and remember what they look like, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. So it's just a really fun thing to do. If anybody out there, if you're thinking about doing a podcast, it's truly fun, actually.
Curious about starting your own podcast? Connect with JL Palmer Consulting. We can help.
You think it's gonna be more like work, and you're not sure if it's gonna be a good thing, but it turns out to be really fun and therapeutic for yourself, because you learn a lot. I mean, I don't know about you, but I learned a lot.
Oh,
So
every episode, almost every moment. But
yeah.
the way you talk about it is I feel that way about podcasting too. It's like I really want to have a conversation and create somewhat of a relationship with the person, and make sure that there's something to take away from it that maybe we do want to revisit or even build a relationship bigger than the episode after the fact. And
Yeah.
I use the slogan, let me play with your podcast, or play with your podcast by exploring like your own curiosity or your interests, or because I do believe that anybody could have a podcast and just decide, oh, I'm interested in this, or I want to talk to people like this. And it, you can create all kinds of wonderful, meaningful moments in that space instead of just, pushing content. I'm not really keen on the episodes where, me just being drilled questions.
I mean, here's the thing. I do use AI questions, but I rarely use them. And I always tell people this. I say, listen, I have questions that I I took your bio and I fed it into Chat GPT or whatever, Claude or whatever it is. And also asked them to do a deep dive on research about you, and then I tell Chat or whoever I call my Chat GPT Chad. Okay, so I tell Chad, I go, Chad, get me. I want you to do the whole workup and yada yada yada, like the little spiel that I give them, and then they do shoot me out like questions and a description of what the podcast will be and my intro script, because in the beginning of all my episodes I do like a 40-second little intro ditty, that's what I call it, about that person that's coming on, and it's kind of draw. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because I know people in the first 20 seconds will decide if they don't want to be on your pod or like listen to the podcast or not, but I try to make it like really good because I want to talk up my guests, and I want the people to know that this is going to be funny, or this is going to be great, or this is going to be sad, or this is going to, this is a touching story, or of that nature. But I totally lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
So okay, I was having a blonde moment. Okay, so that's the point. I have blonde moments. Or that's not actually blonde. Okay, but I have moments. I have moments where I'm like, all right, what was I thinking? Just like that. Like I have a brain fart. And so if I lose my train of thought, I'll use those questions to bring us back to the point. And usually I find that in a conversation between two people, the questions that I have usually already been answered by the person talking. Like I'm like, oh crap, they already said that. They already answered that. I'm like, what question can I ask? Because we've already gone through all the things that are on my list. So I do love just the conversation of it all. And I tell people when they first come on, I'm like, we're just going to have a conversation and it'll last as long as we want it to and as long as it's interesting. When it starts to get like, we both want to yawn, then I'm like, let's wrap it up. But so I don't have a time limit on my podcast, can go an hour and 20 at longest it's been is an hour and 25 minutes. And so yeah, I do use AI questions because sometimes there's questions in there that make me sound smart. And so I want to ask those questions that make me sound kind of like a good interviewer. But generally I just love the conversation to flow. And I'm just like, tell me about your life. Like let's start at the beginning. You know what I mean? What Hot Wheel did you drive? Like what color was it? I really want to know.
Do you tell them in advance you're going to use AI? Because I know I have a sensitivity to AI.
I have a little spiel. I tell them, I said, well, I do have some questions. And I tell them, I go, I do use ChatGPT to get the questions. And I say, but I don't really use them. I go, but you might tell that once or twice I might, because I'm having a blonde moment. I tell them, I go, I might not think of a question to ask you. And if I can't think of something, I use it as my backup. And so that's kind of part of when I first have the guest on, I give them my little backup spiel about. And then I tell them, I go, and I'll send you an email with the episode link and the social posts. And at the, it'll be about a year from now, but you'll get it the weekend before. And I go, and you can use those social posts whenever and however you want. And then I tell them that this is a conversation and it'll last as long as we want it to. And then I also tell them about the intro because I go, I don't want people to think that when I'm introducing them that I'm like shorthanded, not introducing them and talking them up. I go, I talk you up in the intro script. And I said, so when we start, I go, it'll just kind of be a short start. I go, hey friends, like, I don't want them to think that I'm like, you know, not making them sound great, because, all the guests I feel like that come on my show are great and they all have something wonderful to offer. And I kind of want to highlight that in the very beginning I don't say it, or I might forget to say it in the intro with me talking. I want to make sure I say it in the intro script in post production and make sure it comes out. And I also back it to music because I one of the things that I did is I went online to Suno, Suno. So anybody out there, let's say you want to make a video for your anniversary, but you want to make a song about your husband or your wife or whatever. You can use ChatGPT or just write the lyrics like I did. I wrote the lyrics and then I put it in Suno and I said, I kind of want country rock and a little bit of this. And it spat me out a song. And that is my introduction song on my podcast. It is my theme song. And it's about retro world, living in the retro world. Like we grew up in the retro world, but we're living in a digital world, raising kids addicted to YouTube streams and stuff like that. I don't know, something like that. But it's on every episode. At the very end of every episode, I play the full version so people can hear it. But I back the introduction backed by the music, so it's kind of like I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you do a lot of guest spots or do you primarily host?
As a guest, yes, I do. I think I've been on. I don't know. In the last year, I've been on more than 50. I think.
Okay. Yeah. Which,
Yeah.
and you prefer hosting or prefer guesting or don't really have a preference?
I don't have a preference. There are some days when I'm like, thank God I'm not hosting because I'm too tired, like to, pull all the energy together. I'm like, but it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I like the content for my own episode, of course,
Mhm.
but I like to be on podcasts because one of the reasons why I do go on them is to promote my book.
Yeah. I was going
Um,
to talk about your book, a no filter memoir. Now, you did that before you started podcasting, though.
yeah, so the whole reason why I started podcasting was because of the book. Okay, so I wrote this crazy book during the downtime of my work because it was slow. And so whenever it was slow, I said I'm going to write a book about my crazy life because I wanted to write it for my children so that they'd have something about mommy and that they could come back and go, that was my mom and she wrote this crazy book and all the things that I've been through my life so they maybe could have a better understanding of me personally as well. So I just wrote the book. And then I didn't know if I was going to get it published. But then after I finished it, I was like, "Wait, I wrote a book. Like, yes, And so, and then I edited it over and over and over. It only took me, honestly, 2 months to write the dang thing. And I edited it, if that's even a word, but over and over for about 6 months to a year almost. And then I hooked myself up with Christian Faith Publishing, and it's kind of a hybrid. I don't recommend it, but for my first book, it was an experience. So I'm glad that I did it this way because I know what not I don't want for the future books that I'm writing. But yeah, they gave me a few edits and they said this is actually written really well. And they a few edits later, it was done and then but it took about a year for it to actually get finished.
Yeah.
And then so after I got the book and it was getting going to be it was supposed to come out in like July and I thought okay, I'm going to start a podcast, in July ish. I think that's when I started, or right around that time. So right before then, I'm like, how do you do a podcast? Because I wanted to do the podcast to share my book with people, and maybe because I have so many different stories throughout my book that I would have some expertise in certain subjects that I could have those kind of guests on, and we could talk about it. Like for instance, okay, I know I'm a little high strung, as obviously you can tell. I probably had some kind of ism or ADHD or something when I was younger, but who knows, right? Because back in the 70s and 80s, you didn't diagnose people with anything. But so it was my high school. I was a senior. I was 16 years old, and stopped hanging out with my family. Stopped eating with them. I hung out in my room because I would have to cook and clean for everybody. It was like I was a freaking servant. And I just did not want to have to clean up after everybody anymore. So I thought, man, if I didn't have to eat dinner with them, I'll just stay in my room and let them eat their own dinner and I'll have a bologna sandwich and be happy with it. Like I don't need what they're eating. And so because I was reserved and quiet, not as crazy and outgoing as I normally am at home. my parents thought I was on drugs.
Yeah.
So they dropped me off at a drug rehab and I was there for 4 days until the drug test came back and said that I was not on drugs, which I've still to this day have never done drugs. And so I always thought to myself, because I am a little high strung and I am a little crazy, I don't know, I might die if I tried anything because I always thought that. I always thought, man, I'm never trying drugs because I don't know, I'll be that one person that does it and dies. So I just never wanted to. And so they dropped me off in a drug rehab because my parents and I had a horrible relationship. And that's just one of the things that I had to go through. But I write about all these different things. And I felt like because I was in a drug rehab, maybe I should do a show about, navigating when you think that your children are on drugs. Because my mom and dad didn't have internet, they didn't have a playbook, they didn't have anything to help them figure out, like, why is this little girl irritable and acting irresponsible, or why is she changing? Couldn't have been hormones, probably. I guess they probably didn't think that. Here I am, I'm 16. Couldn't have been that. No, no, no. It's got to be drugs, right? And so, but so I trying to have, like, I'll have a guest on. I had a guest on about, like, you know, what do you do when your kids are on drugs? You know what I mean? Like, how do you navigate through something like that? And so I also, I had a drug, it hasn't aired yet, but I had a man that was addicted to drugs severely and turned his life around. And I've talked to him about, like, being in drug rehab. I'm like, I tell him my story and he tells me his. And we kind of meet in the middle about, like, life and our experiences. And I think that people want to be a fly on the wall and hear these crazy stories and experiences. And so definitely I try to pick some stories out of my life that I can relate to the person that I'm interviewing. Um, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense because I know I'm very long-winded. Sorry.
I really like the concept and the social health part of podcasting where you can actually connect with all kinds of different people and throughout the week, if, as much as you want, really. I mean, there's no shortage with that matching service we have that you can talk to people all day long, every day.
Yeah, like, let me just add, like, one of the other things that are in my book is, how I was raised and just and disciplined. I guess my parents were trying to break my little spirit. They never could, though. But one of the chapters in my book is called "The Belt, the Hand, or the Hanger." And so, because my dad would ask me how I wanted to get spanked, and so, anywho, so I would have a guest on about spanking across the different generations. About, like, when he was younger, the gentleman, the doctor was, my expert. He was older than me, so he was a boomer, if not even older than that. And so, we talked about his generation and my generation, and then the next and the next, and how where the kids are right now, and what are we failing them, and all the things. My whole goal is to try to connect with parents that are struggling with something that is current, like, kids that are 16 right now, and, like, we talk about different things and, like, things that can help them currently in their current state. So that's where I'm taking my podcast currently, and I'm enjoying it. And I have some really good people that have come on and really working hard out there trying to promote either their book or their company or their coaching. A lot, I'm finding, and I didn't know this until podcasts I started this, that there's a lot of coaches out there that want to coach you about all kinds of things. And but you know what? I actually have a son that has Asperger's that needs a life coach. Like, he needs somebody. And I would never have thought that coaching, like, what is that? Like, I wasn't really behind it until my son started, like, getting older. And I'm like, damn, my son needs somebody other than mommy and daddy to help him get straight, like, what he needs to do to kickstart his life. I mean, I always talk about this on my podcast about my son. I feel terrible. If he ever hears me, he's going to be like, dang it, mom, you talked about me too much. But I say failure to launch is like a thing, like, it's true. Like, my son is and these kids nowadays, they are having a hard time launching out of their parents' house and their basements and everything. I don't know. It's a thing.
Definitely didn't have that problem over here. But, we haven't mentioned the name of your podcast yet. So it's Jess Saying, Jess Saying, with Jessica Danel. And so we definitely, with all that you're sharing about it, encourage people to go and check it out. Raw, hilarious, much like you are right now.
I'm a bit much, I can't
Well,
say. I mean,
and the no filter memoir is called
uh,
Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. So you are a small town author. Do you want to share a little bit about what you call redneck and the small town life?
yeah, okay. So I'm currently I live in California, and I've always lived in California, but I lived in a Northern California town up north of Sacramento, in a small, tiny little town. And everybody knew everybody. In fact, I write in the book about how the little area I lived in is called Park Circle, and it was like the Park Circle people. We like it's just the thing. Like we all were very, very tight. And this is a farming community, nothing but like we're surrounded by orchards everywhere, and we're tiny little towns surrounded by all these orchards. And redneck, the if you look up, I mean, I don't really know if you look up the definition, but in my world of definitions, redneck is a farmer that works out in the sun and gets their neck red from being in the heat all day. And my all my families were farmers growing up. My great grandpa, Idaho farmer. And so redneck comes from that. I mean, that's just really the gist of it, because I come from a very small community. And bucket list is because when I was in college, I went to my very first Yuba College, which is where I grew up. The Yuba College is it's probably like the number one smallest college, and it's smaller than my high school. I thought it's really small. And the counselor said, like, what do you want to be? And I'm like, a wife, a mom. Like, I didn't really have like I didn't want to be a doctor or a social worker or Batman or police captain. I didn't want to be anything. I just wanted to be a mom and a wife. And I know that doesn't really say a lot, but so he was like, well, I don't know how to work with that. He goes, how about this? How about you take early childhood education courses, and that'll help you understand children. And so it might make you be a better mom. And so I was like, all right. And so that's what I did. I started taking early. And then I also ran for the college. I was in cross country and track. And so I ran for the colleges that I had attended. I talk about it in the book. And so yeah, that's what I did. And so he says, well, why don't you make a bucket list of things you want to do with your life? And he says, and take early childhood education units. And I've always thought of all the things that I wanted to do with my life, and they were very simple things. They were have a life where you're married and have kids, and you write a book, and you're going to start a preschool, and you're going to do all these things. And they're just small little things that normal people would just consider life. But I just thought they were never going to be attainable. And so I wrote them down thinking, one day. And so that's why the book is called but I can't even know my own name. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. I don't know why I had to look at my book to see what it was called. It was crazy. But yeah, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. It's a very easy read. You'll laugh, you'll cry because my high school was one of the first high school shootings in America in 1992.
Oh,
Um, it was before Columbine. Columbine, I think, was 99 or 2000. And this former student, which we all knew who he was, came back to our school, opened fired, killed our civic teacher and three of my friends. And he shot like nine others. Like, we're talking blowing off their shoulders bad. Um, and he held like 80 hostages for about 12 hours at our school. And he would make kids go down to find other children that were hiding. And he says, if you don't come back, I'm gonna kill a friend. And so the kids, you're talking 14, 15-year-olds, having to go downstairs to either drag somebody back or say, run, 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 you can get out. And then go back up and say, I didn't see anybody, or they would just take off themselves and save their own life. But can you imagine having to weigh that question at that age of like, should I go back or should I run? I don't know.
No, any of it.
And
Can't
so,
imagine any of it. That's just, sorry, Jessica, but that is just very, very traumatic. And I know that you've
yeah,
shared a few things about it not getting probably the attention it deserved and hardly it even being talked about. But you're
yeah,
changing that.
yeah. Well, they did make us funny, not funny, but okay. So what happened was the Rodney King verdict came out on April 29th, and then the riots in LA riots, and then the next day more rioting. And it was the day after that, May 1st, 1992, that this all happened. And the news cycle wasn't like what it is today. It probably didn't even get talked about other than local, like Sacramento news or art, local news. And but they did make a movie about this. Really crazy. I think it came out in 96. And the movie was called Target of Rage.
Mm.
And you can find it on Prime right now, Amazon Prime. It's also had a different name called I don't know why it was, I don't know if it was remade or something, but Siege at Johnson High is also the other name you can find it under. And um Henry Winkler was in it, Freddie Prince Jr. and guy from Silver Spoons, Ricky Schroeder. They
Mhm.
all starred in the movie. And everybody always says, like all of us, we do memorialize the day every year on Facebook. And this last year I used that Suno and I did a music and a video montage. And it really brought us all together because it's been like 30 years since it happened, or 31 years or something like that since it happened. And we're just like, we all get together and we talk about it and like, oh, I remember him or I remember this and all the things. And it kind of keeps us close. I told you we're a close community. Man, this has kept us really tight, I think, you know.
Well, and you're building your own community, but we do have to end on a high note here.
A little bit of an up note. Okay. So I don't want to like be such a Debbie Downer. So my so okay, so here's a good one. So my story is not a religious story, and I'm not a religious per se person. But I believe that many things have happened to me in my life that have helped me raise my kids, that have helped me, I don't know, understand like we're not alone. I can tell you one thing. I was young and I was in a car with my girlfriend. I was 17 years old, and we went to Utah to go to her boyfriend's ranch, and we got lost coming home and ended up in Idaho. And trying to get back to California. And here, I mean, it is absurd. Okay, I do still get lost in my own neighborhood, so please, I mean,
Just maybe just a
it's
little
a
bit.
struggle. It's a struggle. And so we ended up in Idaho with no gas in my little Chevy Citation that I was driving back in 1992. And it, by the grace of God, I swear, this is absolute truth. We stopped with zero gas, like on fumes, stopped at the only gas station we had seen in miles and miles. I mean, we're talking an hour. Finally stopped because I'm like, I don't think there's anywhere to stop. This like seems like it's desert forever. And so we stopped and we get out of the car and I'm almost in tears, I'm just this little girl and I go to the teller or the it's an old timey gas station too, by the way. It's like you open up the door, it's like a screen door. Like really it creaks. And it's like a screen door like you would have on a house and it shuts behind you. And I walk in, I talk to the lady behind the counter and I'm like almost in tears. And I told her I was lost and she goes, well, where are you trying to go? And I go, California. Like she goes, oh, honey, you went the wrong way. And I go, well, where am I? And she goes, well, you're in Idaho. And I go, well, where? My great grandma and grandpa live in Idaho somewhere. And she goes, Eden, Idaho. And I go, I think they live in Eden, Idaho. And I'm in the middle of nowhere. So there's probably like three people that live in Eden, Idaho. It's that desolate. And the lady looked at me and she's like, well, honey, what's your grandma's name? And I said, Vineyard. Her last name is Vineyard. And she put her head down and she looked at me and she comes out from across around the desk and she puts her arm around me, gives me a little side hug, and she walks me over to this other side door and she opens it up and she goes, you see that road right there? That road is Vineyard Road. That is your grandma and grandpa's street. Now, my grandma and grandpa's house is a historical national landmark because their house was built in like the 1900s, made out of lava rock, and it's actually really beautiful. But it's like nobody could ever mess with it because it's like made out of this crazy rock, and it was considered a national historical landmark. And so they have their own road, and they have like 300 acres. It's a huge farm. And so can you imagine? She looked at me like, I can't believe you got lost and you landed right at your family's doorstep almost. You know what I mean? It's the God's honest truth.
That's
Isn't that
crazy.
crazy? It's
Yeah.
so crazy. But there's more to the story. So I gave you pretty much the gist of it, but it's a very funny story. And a lot of things have happened to me in my life. I was hit by a drunk driver, my car caught on fire, and I barely made it out before it exploded. Just like in the movies. I had a Jerry Springer wedding with my parent, my family and we have a contentious relationship, and I talk about it throughout the book. But I couldn't even they didn't even let me have my own day. Like it was just there was death threats, there was all kinds of stuff happening at my wedding. It was totally a Jerry Springer wedding. I'm surprised my husband and I are still together after 28 years. But I mean, I don't know. Everything that's tried to break us apart has just made us come together. I'm a stepmother. I was in court for my stepdaughter for many years. We ended up ditching our attorney and trying to do it ourselves because we could actually did better and not spend our whole life savings on this attorney that was like over $50,000 that we were going in debt. And at a young age, at our very beginning of our marriage, I ended up in labor in court because the mom would not allow us to have a continuance because it was my due date. And I actually went into labor in court.
That's
It's a
crazy.
story. There's
I'm
so
gonna
many crazy stories like that in my book. It's nuts. The whole thing is nuts.
I'll share your details in the show notes. And thank you very much for your time today. It's been wonderful getting to know a little bit about you. I'm sure there's a whole bunch more.
Come see me, jessaying.net. That's my website, jessaying.net.
Gotcha. And I'll also share details about where to get your book there.
I appreciate it. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye for now. Well, I know you want to get to know Jessica better. I definitely do. If you'd like help with your podcast or you'd like to be my next guest, check out the show notes for details on how to get signed up with PodMatch. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and keep growing.